King Charles just gave Kate Middleton something Camilla fought years to keep exclusive. And then Charles signed the paperwork that broke 116 years of royal protocol. This isn't ceremony, it's a declaration. 3 reveals are coming: what Charles gave, what Camilla lost, and Anne's secret role nobody saw. A royal warrant isn't a ribbon. It's institutional power, the words "by appointment to" carried by brands like Burberry and Rolls-Royce as their most valuable commercial credential. Whoever controls warrant-granting authority controls which British businesses carry the crown's prestige. That is leverage. Camilla's hold on royal warrant authority would later become the exact thing that defined the power struggle nobody was supposed to see. But in 2023, it was just the quiet privilege of a new queen consort settling into her role. Since Charles's coronation in May 2023, only 2 people on Earth could grant a royal warrant of appointment: King Charles III and Queen Camilla. 2 people. Out of the entire extended Windsor family, the entire apparatus of the British state, the entire living lineage of one of the world's oldest monarchies. 2. That exclusivity wasn't accidental, it was architecture. It was a wall built around a very specific kind of influence, and Camilla had worked for years to stand inside it. Reports from palace observers and royal correspondents consistently noted that Camilla had actively sought this privilege. It wasn't handed to her with the crown, it was a hard-won marker of legitimacy, proof that her role as queen consort carried real institutional weight, not just a title on an invitation. I mean, think about that for a second. After decades of being cast as the villain in the Diana narrative, after years of public skepticism, Camilla had finally secured something concrete, something that put her name on the commercial identity of Britain itself. And then Charles extended warrant-granting authority to William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. The implications are not subtle. Every warrant Camilla grants now shares a stage with warrants from the Waleses. Her exclusivity, the thing that set her apart from every other senior royal, is gone. Palace insiders and royal analysts have read this move as a deliberate recalibration of the internal hierarchy. Charles wasn't just giving William and Kate a new power, he was quietly, precisely, and publicly signaling where the centre of gravity now sits. The Waleses are the future, full stop. And if that were the only problem, Camilla might have absorbed it gracefully. But then came the 116-year precedent, and the full weight of what Charles had decided became impossible to ignore. Up to this point, Camilla had been in control of this particular corridor of royal power. That was about to flip. March 22nd, 2024. Kate, Princess of Wales, posted a video from a garden bench. She was calm, composed, and delivering news that stopped the world mid-scroll. She had cancer. The diagnosis had followed abdominal surgery in January 2024, and the weeks of silence, the cancelled appearances, the carefully managed non-answers from Kensington Palace, all of it suddenly made devastating sense. The announcement sent shockwaves through every corner of the global media landscape. Within hours, it was the most watched royal video in recent memory. But behind the public reaction, something else was happening inside the palace walls. The months that followed were a grinding, exhausting, deeply private ordeal. Kate underwent chemotherapy, withdrawing almost entirely from public duties. The media speculation was relentless, every rare sighting analysed, every absence interrogated. For a woman who had built her public identity on composed, purposeful visibility, the forced withdrawal was its own kind of burden. Then, in September 2024, came a quiet milestone. Kate had completed her course of chemotherapy. No fanfare, no major press conference. Just a measured statement and a collective exhale from the public that had been watching and waiting. Completing chemotherapy is not the end of cancer's shadow. It is the beginning of a different kind of uncertainty. The waiting, the monitoring, the learning to live inside a body that has been through war. January 2025 brought the moment millions had been hoping for. Kate publicly announced she was in remission. The relief was immediate and visceral, trending worldwide within minutes, the kind of news that briefly unites strangers across every divide. For the royal family, it was more than a medical update. It was a turning point. Because this period, from the diagnosis in early 2024 to the remission announcement in January 2025, didn't just test Kate's resilience, it permanently restructured the relationships inside the House of Windsor. The bonds formed in those months, the loyalties revealed and deepened, the quiet acts of support that never made the front pages. Those became the real architecture of what came next. The cancer year didn't weaken Kate's position, it forged it. While the cameras were pointed elsewhere, Princess Anne was making phone calls. Not press briefings, not coordinated public statements of support, phone calls. Daily ones, according to reports from those close to the situation. Anne, Princess Royal, was reportedly calling Kate throughout her treatment. Not to discuss royal engagements, not to manage institutional messaging, but simply to talk. Deliberately ordinary conversations, deliberately human ones. That was only round one of what Anne's role would ultimately mean for the monarchy's internal dynamics. Anne's approach was characteristically her own. She is, by almost every credible measure, the hardest working member of the royal family. In 2023, she carried out more than 457 official engagements, more than any other royal. She is deeply private, constitutionally allergic to drama, and has spent 5 decades building a reputation on substance over spectacle. She doesn't perform loyalty, she practices it. What she offered Kate during those months was something the palace machinery couldn't manufacture. It was sustained, invisible, genuinely human connection. No photographers, no coordinated leaks to friendly correspondence, just consistency. The kind that matters most when someone is fighting for their health and their sense of self simultaneously. The effect of this on Kate's standing within the family has been significant. Anne is not a woman who extends herself lightly. Her daily calls to Kate were a signal to everyone watching from the inside, and in the royal family, everyone is always watching from the inside, that Kate had earned real respect from the family's most formidable and least performative member. In a period when the institution was already navigating Charles's own health crisis, the Sussexes' continued distance and the relentless pressure of public scrutiny, Anne became the quiet, stabilizing force that held the emotional center together. Her role wasn't visible, that was precisely the point. In January 2024, Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles had been diagnosed with cancer. The specific type was not disclosed beyond confirmation that it was not prostate cancer, the condition that had initially brought him in for treatment. Britain had a king undergoing cancer treatment, and within weeks, the Princess of Wales would announce she was doing the same. This decision seemed small at the time. It wasn't. The parallel experiences of Charles and Kate navigating diagnosis, treatment, and recovery simultaneously created something that had never existed before in the modern royal family. A private, unscripted bond between a reigning monarch and his daughter-in-law, built not on protocol or duty, but on the specific leveling intimacy of shared illness. You cannot perform your way through chemotherapy. You cannot manage the experience with press releases. It strips everything back. Charles reportedly reached out to Kate personally during her recovery, not as the king offering formal support to a senior working royal, but as someone who understood from the inside what she was living through. The distinction matters enormously. Institutional support is expected. Personal understanding is rare. By June 2026, the bond had become visible to the outside world. Charles and Kate appeared together at a Cancer Research UK reception at St James's Palace, a joint appearance that carried unmistakable symbolic weight. Two people who had fought the same battle, standing together under the banner of the institution that had defined both their lives, signaling something to the world without needing to say it directly. Royal analysts and commentators were nearly unanimous in their reading of this moment. The emotional engine behind Charles's decision to formally elevate Kate's institutional authority, the warrant power, the protocol break, the 116-year precedent, was not purely strategic, it was personal. Charles wasn't just positioning the future, he was honoring someone who had earned his deepest respect. January 9th, 2026. Buckingham Palace releases an official announcement. William, Prince of Wales, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, will become formal grantors of royal warrants of appointment, effective spring 2026. That's not a typo, by the way. The Princess of Wales, Kate, will hold the legal, institutional authority to grant royal warrants. The last Princess of Wales to hold this power did so more than 116 years ago, before the First World War, before women had the right to vote in Britain, before the Titanic had even sailed. The precedent being broken here is not a minor footnote in royal history. It is a seismic recalibration of how warrant-granting authority has been structured for over a century. Charles did not arrive at this decision passively. Established royal convention had to be actively overridden. The warrant system has its own constitutional weight. It is not adjusted casually or quickly. For this change to happen, Charles had to decide deliberately and with full awareness of what he was doing that the convention needed to be broken. That is not a king drifting into modernity. That is a king making a calculated, considered architectural choice about the future of his institution. The commercial implications alone are substantial. Brands and businesses that receive warrants from William and Kate will carry that association into the next reign. The prestige being conferred here compounds over time. Kate, as a grantor, will shape the commercial identity of the British monarchy for a generation. But this wasn't just about Kate anymore. The warrant decision signaled to every senior royal, every palace insider, every watching government, and every global brand that the Waleses are not heirs-in-waiting. They are already co-stewards of the Crown's most tangible institutional power. There is a version of this story where a 77-year-old king, managing his own cancer recovery, quietly steps back and lets events unfold around him. Charles is not living that version. And this is the part where things stopped being funny, where the pattern became impossible to dismiss as coincidence or sentiment. What Charles has constructed in the period between his diagnosis and the January 2026 announcement is a deliberate, multi-layered succession architecture. Elevating William and Kate to warrant-granting authority positions them as the monarchy's active future. Relying on Anne as the family's stabilizing backbone positions her as the institution's living memory and moral anchor. These are not random outcomes. They are the result of conscious choices made by a man who understands, with unusual clarity, that he is building something that must outlast him. The Camilla dynamic sits within this architecture in a specific way. Her influence as Queen Consort remains real and significant.
She holds genuine institutional standing. But the exclusivity that defined her warrant power, the tight two-person circle that existed from the coronation onward, has been deliberately opened. Charles made that choice. He understood what it meant. He made it anyway. Kate's journey through cancer and recovery has done something that no amount of strategic positioning could have manufactured. It has given her a human dimension that resonates far beyond the usual metrics of royal popularity. Polls consistently show her as one of the most trusted and admired figures in British public life. Her resilience has become part of the monarchy's story, and Charles has recognized that and built around it. This is a monarchy in deliberate, architect-driven transition, and Charles is holding the blueprints. Kate enters 2026 carrying something most public figures never acquire. Not just a title, not just recovered health, not just public affection, but formal, legal, institutional authority, backed by the explicit endorsement of a reigning monarch who broke 116 years of protocol to give it to her. Her warrant-granting power is not ceremonial, it is active and consequential. The brands and British businesses that receive a warrant bearing Catherine, Princess of Wales, will carry that credential into the next reign and beyond. The associations she builds now will define the commercial landscape of the British monarchy for decades. She is not just lending her image, she is shaping an institution's identity at its most tangible level.
The cancer journey, the diagnosis, the chemotherapy completed in September 2024, the remission announced in January 2025 did not diminish her. By every observable measure, it elevated her. Inside the palace, it earned her the sustained loyalty of Princess Anne, one of the most respected and least easily impressed figures in the royal family. It created a private bond with Charles that transcends the usual formality of the monarch-daughter-in-law relationship. It gave her a depth of public standing that cannot be manufactured by communications teams or carefully staged appearances. She enters this new chapter with a stronger royal network than she possessed before her diagnosis. Anne's mentorship, Charles's personal bond, William's partnership. These are not just emotional assets, they are structural ones. She is no longer simply the future queen consort waiting in the wings. She is already one of the most consequential figures the modern British monarchy has produced. The crown hasn't landed on her head yet, but the power, that has already arrived. The real question is, what happened behind closed doors? In the conversations that never made the briefing notes, in the decisions that were framed as protocol reviews, but were actually something far more personal. Royal warrant reform had been discussed at an institutional level for years. The system, critics argued, was overdue for modernization, but the specific shape of this reform, extending authority to the Princess of Wales specifically, at this specific moment, in this specific way, was not the product of a committee recommendation. Months later, a second read of the timeline surfaced, what the official announcements had carefully left unspoken. This decision tracked almost exactly with Kate's remission announcement. The timing is not incidental. Charles announced the warrant expansion in January 2026. Kate had announced her remission in January 2025. 12 months. 1 year in which Charles watched Kate return to public life, rebuild her presence, and demonstrate, not just to the public, but to the institution itself, that she was not just recovering. She was becoming something more formidable than she had been before. Think about what that sequencing actually means. The king, himself navigating his own cancer recovery, watched his daughter-in-law fight the same battle and emerge with greater standing, deeper relationships, and a clearer sense of purpose. And his response was to formalize that standing with the most significant grant of institutional authority a Princess of Wales has received in over a century. The same resilience that defined Kate's cancer journey was about to define her institutional legacy. Charles didn't give Kate power because she was the next in line's wife. He gave it to her because she had earned it in the hardest possible way, and because he, of all people, understood exactly what that cost. Kate's story isn't unique. It reveals what every monarchy eventually faces. Subscribe now and follow every move in the royal power shift that's just beginning.